My name is Rob Goddard, and I've been buying and selling businesses for the past 20 years. Currently, though, I've been interviewing interesting people doing interesting things. And if you've ever considered expanding abroad, expanding your business operations to another country, then you must watch this next video. My guest, Indu, left the shores of India 30 years ago to go and work on another continent, in another country, in the UAE. So if you'd like to find out her story, what motivated her to move abroad and set up in business overseas, and also, more importantly, what's kept her there, then enjoy the next video. Hi, my name's Rob Goddard, and I've been doing a series of speaking to interesting people doing interesting things. And often they're in interesting places as well. So I'd like to welcome Indu. Hello, Indu, from Dubai.
Hi, Rob. Great to see you.
Yeah, a very warm welcome. Well, it's warmer where you are because my thermometer tells me it's over 40 degrees during the day at the moment where you are.
That's true. That's true. We are warm.
Hot. Yeah, you're warm, but no humidity, I know, because as you know, I used to live and work in Dubai. So it can be very sticky in the summer.
Yes, we have a few more months to go before the humidity starts.
Now, Indu, you're a business owner. And you're involved in the area, the commercial area of interior and external design and architecture. So perhaps you could just share a little bit with the audience what you do and how you do it, and where you come from originally, because you weren't born in the UAE, you were born elsewhere. So perhaps you could just share a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to share a little bit of my journey, and I'll go to your first part of the question.
Sure.
So I'm born and brought up in India. I did all my studies in India, but my father had a transferable job, and you know, India is a very large country. So I changed like 9 schools in 12 years. So, it was interesting. I completed my architecture from New Delhi, from one of the premier institutes. I worked for a year, and then I came to UAE. I actually followed my husband here, and I started architectural practice. I then got a job in 1996 in the ruler's office, and at that time they were building the Emirates Towers. The Emirates Towers was a unique project. We were all sitting on site, all architects, structural engineers, MEP, and there I was asked to work on the interior design of the hotel. That's when I realized that this is actually what I like. And I fell in love with it. It was like a calling. And since then, I have only done interior architecture. And why I do it, I think because we live so close to the spaces, you look at a building once, twice, 3 times, admire it from outside. But you live most of the time inside the building. And that's where the detail counts.
That's very true, actually, isn't it? I know very close to the Emirates Towers is a very new building. I thought it was going to be a car park, but it's a museum. And it's a donut shape, isn't it? Slightly elongated. And it's a beautiful, beautiful building. Yes,
it is true. Dubai is known for doing iconic things.
Yes.
and it's these challenges in design and architecture which actually attract so much talent into the country. Yes. And I think that's one of the reasons we are all here.
Yeah, and it does have echoes of New York with the big skyscrapers. But there's something different about Dubai. Obviously it's newer architecture, but it's stunning and it's spectacular. And I do recommend to my friends that they should at least visit Dubai once in their life. It's one of those bucket list things. It is spectacular. And you're right. You do get the attention from the outside, but then when you go inside, the design and the interior design is fantastic in a lot of these buildings.
Yes. And Rob, the spectacularness is almost like the vision of the ruler. And what is great about it is what they say, they do it. It sounds impossible when they say it, but they do it somehow. And if somebody says, uh, how is it going to happen? And the phrase which goes, if this is Dubai, anything can happen. So that's what
Yeah.
it is.
And it finishes on time, something British
Yes.
builders and construction could learn from. It gets done,
Uh,
doesn't it?
yes, gets done. It gets
Yeah,
done always,
yeah. And
somehow.
now, what I've noticed from the Burj Khalifa, which is still the world's tallest building, is that yes, there's a lot of building in and around Dubai, but you only have to go up on the Burj Khalifa and see how much land hasn't been developed yet. So there's tremendous scope. Is that why you're continuing to stay? Because you've been in Dubai now for nearly 30 years. So there must be something that holds you.
Uh, so there are two answers to this question. The first answer is on a professional level. Yes, there is a lot of place to build. There is a vision. There is, once decided, it is done somehow. There's no red tape, no bureaucracy to go through. Once it is decided, it is done. The speed at which things are decided, and because there are so many kinds of people, there's so many materials, technology which come from all over the world, and suddenly you have this whole selection of things which you can work with and work around. And this is what makes it very beautiful at a professional level.
Mm,
At a personal level, Rob, it is one of the safest countries in the world.
it is. Yeah.
And for us, that was the biggest attraction when we came from large cities like New Delhi and Hyderabad. That's where I belong to. So I think children growing up in this atmosphere was absolutely wonderful. um, we never even locked our doors for a long time. So that's the level of security. So both
Yeah.
ways it worked very well for us.
I know in Dubai, in the many of the hotels that I've stayed in, you can leave your wallet on the bar and go to the restroom, and it won't be touched at all,
Yes,
will it?
very true. Very true.
No,
Very
it's
true.
it is a very safe country. So I mean, for those, I can see the appeal of it. And of
Yes.
course, people often say, "Well, it's so hot and humid," but in Dubai, but you spend most of your time inside. Going back to your point a moment ago, um, I mean, only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun, especially during the summer. No one in their right mind would walk in the summer outside. It's all air conditioned, isn't it? Even the walkways are air conditioned to
Yes.
shopping malls and stuff. So, um,
Everything is air conditioned or climate control, let's put it that way. I think, Rob, every place has its ups and downs. There's the cold and the rain.
it
You
is
have
a
to get
great
used to it.
environment to set up a business, and I did so myself a few years ago. So it is a land of opportunity. But I want to zoom in on your practice because you're not in a monopoly. You do have other companies that offer architecture and interior design. So why is your company different?
So, Rob, when I started this business in 2004, prior to that, for 10 years, I had worked in various firms, small and big. And I realized that as an architect, there are so many things you look at. You look at walls, ceilings, lights, where the air conditioning comes from, so many things, and suddenly you were working in these huge offices, working in silos. So if somebody is doing the furniture layout, the guy who's doing the ceiling plans where the lights are coming, he has no clue.
Mm,
Somebody else is doing something, and we were just working in isolation, and everything comes together in the building. And whose building is it? It is the team's building. But as an architect, I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know which paint is going, why is the light there, and I never got this opportunity. And I said, when I actually do this practice, I want everybody to have a base level of everything. Everybody should know what is cooking in that pot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what made me actually start the practice. We have a very small practice and we talk to each other. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. So what's the benefit for your clients then?
So one thing which is very important, as I call it, design consciousness. I have written at length on it. And what it is you're conscious of where you are going, how you're sitting, what you feel. When you get into a space, what do you feel? Or to an extent, what do you want to feel? And that sort of then boils down as a translation of a wish list to the client. How many times do people have this conversation with the client?
Yeah. You're right, because it's been proven by scientific studies that your working environment affects efficiency, productivity, and most importantly, your well-being,
Yes.
what you think and
And
feel.
the aspect which you have said about well-being, we have more buildings with something called the sick building syndrome.
Yes.
And as urbanites, we spend so much of time indoors, and if we don't take care of it at a design level, whatever is produced is not going to be perfect. And we need to take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is responsible design.
And do you come across prospective clients from time to time that say, build this for me? And you're looking at it thinking, it won't work. Do you come across that?
Many a time, Rob. Many a time. It's the age of Instagram architecture, right? So I saw it. I want you to build it.
Yes.
Is there a context? Is there a purpose? Is there a budget? Is there a timeline? We won't get any answers to that.
Especially budget. Well, they want the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, but they want it on a tight budget.
Yes, yes. And I think that's the mistaken idea. You can do a lot with photography. And that's what it is. I mean, some people tell me in a project, I want a corner which is Instagrammable. And I say, why would you sort of waste real estate on something like that? Yes, there is a place at a time for that also. I don't deny it, but not always. That's a discretion one needs to take.
So if I can paraphrase what you've just said in the last few minutes, one of your differences is that you take a very personal approach with clients. They are not on a production line. They are an individual client with individual needs. And sometimes that needs teasing out. What do they really want? But also a sense of reality as well when they come with some ideas and a photograph and say, build it for me.
Very true, Rob. You've said it very nicely, very, very correctly. Each person is an individual.
Yeah.
Each client is different. We have the experience of a broad range of typology of projects. So we design from hotels, restaurants, retail, little malls, corporate offices. So what happens is we learn from each other. If you go to a hotel now, I mean, some hotels now have converted their lobbies into, co-working spaces. For them, it is an ROI. But as a designer, I need to know how an office works, or how do people want to sit. So by having an experience and a knowledge of various typologies of projects, we are able to bring the learnings from one to the other.
Yeah.
And that's what makes us very different.
So I'm going to ask you a final question, Indu, and to share one pearl of wisdom that you've gained in business for the benefit of the audience. While you scour your mind for the one that's suitable, I will say, if anyone's thinking about setting up in the UAE, new business, Do consider it seriously. It is a land of opportunity. It is a very different way of working in some ways, but there's also some familiarity. So despite the very high temperatures that can be reached in the summer, it is a great opportunity for anyone that's looking to expand overseas internationally and open up, because Dubai is the gateway, isn't it, between East and West geographically. So if you're considering it, why don't you get in touch with Indu? Because she's been here nearly 30, or been there nearly 30 years, so she knows a thing or two. I've only had a business in Dubai for 4 or 5 years, so relatively early stage compared to Indu. So what about that pearl of wisdom that you can share with the audience, Indu? Something you've learnt in business that will stay with you for the rest of your years?
So what, in terms of my particular business, I would say learn to be agile.
Right. So flexibility.
Yes, flexibility is very, very important. The needs of clients keep changing.
Yes.
Needs of the business keep changing. Technology keeps coming in and changing. So the ability to adapt to different circumstances, different methods of doing things, and different ways of delivering things, I think it's very important.
I think that's an excellent message, particularly after the last 16 months that all of us across the world have had to handle a global pandemic, and the way that we've had to be flexible, agile, to pick up on your word, and adapt. And never has that been so important for business owners. So thank you for that. And if people want to get in touch with you, you're on LinkedIn, aren't you? I know.
Yes. I'm on LinkedIn, which is Indu Varanasi. You can go onto our website, which is www.irdesign.co.
Brilliant. Get in touch with Indu, not only if you're within the architecture and interior design industry, but if you're thinking about setting up in the UAE. I'm sure she would welcome a call from you. And if you happen to be in the same sector, even better.
Sure.
Complimentary.
Sure.
Indu, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experiences with the audience.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for the opportunity. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Likewise. Bye-bye.